Standing at the heart of Steinok City, right beside its lone Greenway station, I took a moment to absorb everything around me. The marvels of a grim tech, the sleek flying vehicles streaking overhead, the condensed light billboard casting the shift color across the street. It was frustrating, dazzling, yet not what I had imagined. The infrastructure broke the illusion. Instead of towering skyscrapers piercing the cloud, the buildings here rose no higher than 30 meters, sprawling outward for the radius instead of reaching upward. The reason was simply flying the Grimmons' perfect nest at a high altitude. Also, the city underground have been heavily reinforced as well, built to withstand a turning Grimmons that attack from below. In my vision of the future, humanity stood proudly at the top of the food chain. Here, that reality didn't apply. Without the grim myth sharing its resources, power, and knowledge, humans would have gone extinct long ago. Back on my earth, humans were the monster, but this earth had actual monster, Grimmons. Hey, bumpkin, stop littering and crawling back to your standee. Someone cheered from the passing crowd. I turned, trying to spot the voice, but the flow of the people swallowed him before I could even pinpoint his face. A few hurt sneakers whipped around me as the crowd moved on. It could be worse if I remember myself tugging my hoodie lower over my head. Fortunately, I did remember to pull it on before I started breaking out. After all, the memes of the crayon crashing, the Zenith Guild signing ceremony were spreading across the grim web as faster as the scandalous nib slip. Soon I was swept along with the tide of the people heading towards the Grimway station. When we reached the gate, I broke away from the crowd, as only those with the platform of a green ship tickets could enter. I didn't have either. Instead, I followed the outer wall, making my way towards a cluster of dreams squatting nearby, clutching their tributes, all of them waiting for the miracle of their own in their tents or telos. These guys have established a full functional slum around the outer wall of the Grimway station. The authority overlooked it, fearing the riots. All they had was hope. If they looked away, even that, there was no telling what the mob would do. These dreamers hope a whiffs of a grim myth would slip through the grim gates, noticing their humble tributes, and trades them for a grim drake. Contracting them was warlock of a grim myth, the Grimlocks. Similar to how the whispers of a grim myth energy gaons leaking into the earth through the grim gates mutate animals and trees into the grim myth own monsters, Grimmons. As a result, Earth has gradually become the overrun by the Grimmons since the first gates were opened. It was too late to close then by the time they figured it out. Normally, one had to enter the grim myth itself for the contract ceremony, but the miracle like these weren't unheard of, and like all miracles, they were rare. So the rare that most peoples never witness one in their lifetime. Still, no one here gave up hope. Hope cost everything, even the poorest could afford it, as long as they had to will keep belief. Aside from my curiosity about the grim gates, I was here for that fragile hope. I could have stayed home lying on and living off and meager supplies I had left until the media frenzy died down. Instead, I chose to come here, choosing the hope over hiding. I made my way through the crowd to find a spot by the wall to get comfortable, planning to hide from the backlash of the Crayon's action here. On my way, I couldn't help but overhear the people discussing that the government could provide one free contract ceremony to each of its citizens, but were too corrupt to do so. Contract ceremony was sacred rites in which a human travels to Grimmith to seek a covenant with it. Only those whom the Grimmith acknowledge may form a contract with it, receiving a unique Grim deck in exchange for tributes, allowing them to purgle, seal, fuse, and upgrade the Grimmons with their Grimm's card as the warlock of the Grimmith Grimlocks. This ceremony determined whether the individual was worthy of wielding the Grimm's power and setting their mortal status, changing their fate forever. Only by becoming a Grimlock could one face creatures of Earth mutated by the stranger Grions leak from the Grim myth through the Grim's Gate. Grimmons, let alone powerful Grimmons guarding the Grim lords within the Grim myth. The Grim Lords, based on their power, Grimmons are further unclassified into seven ranks: unsung, fabled, dead, epic, legendary, mythical, and unholy. To initiate a contract with the Grim Myth and receiving one's Grim Drake, just becoming a Grimlock, one must offer something of personal value in exchange. This offering has commonly been referred to as attributes. Many believe that the greater the value of the tributes, the stronger the grim deck they receive will be. However, the centuries of accumulated data suggested that a tribute's worth is entirely relative. What humans deem rare and precious may hold a little to no value in the eyes of Grimmith. Some have tried to outsmart the Grimmith by offering the tributes that other one used to receive the powerful Grim deck, but the result has been inconstant. Sometimes yielding a success, other time complete failure. This inconsistency had led the more pragmatic mind to question whether the tribute's value truly influenced the strength of the Grim deck at all. As I walked deeper into the slum, the scene unfolded in stark odor of rows of tents and tellers stretching along the station's outwall. People sat on the blankets or folding the stools, watching the glass jar that held their chosen tribute, a kidney suspending in a nutritional gel, a lonely eye drifting like a pale moon, neatly packed portions of a liver, fragments of a pancreas, coiled sections of intestine, wall of a bone marrow, or a blood stem cells, or a silver of the bones, cartilage, tendons, ligaments, and skin. Some people prepare the multiple organ as their tributes, while others could offer only one, limited by what their families could spare. These peoples had taken the phrase something of a personal value with the brutal literalness. This was a sheer madness. Watching them, I was struck by their own ruthlessness and how the young many of them were just turned 18, yet already hardened enough to crave the peace of out of themselves without hesitation. Their callousness wasn't born from the fear of failing to form a contract with a Grimmith, but far from greater territories of receiving a vague grim debt. Even though no one knew for a certain whether the value of tributes truly influenced the Grimmith judgment, they spared nothing to them. Even the smallest chance of obtaining a power drink was worth bleeding for. After all, once a person received their grimtake from the Grimmith, there was no going back. Each Grimdex had 54 cards, their backs etched with a unique Grim Creepers belonging to the Grimlocks that determine the strength of every card and the overall potential of the deck, ultimately shaping the Grimlock's entire future. There was no chanting, mantras, or secret method to help someone from a contact with the Grimmiths. Everything depended entirely on it. Even after centuries, no one had discovered how the grim myth choose who to contract with and the strength of the grim deck it bestowed on them.